Let's talk about ancient Egypt, land of pyramids, pharaohs, and gods who look like animals going through an identity crisis. But while most people stop at Ra is the sun god and mummies are spooky, they forget that Egypt went through one of the most dramatic religious transformations in human history. I mean, this place went from worshipping falcon-headed sky dads to becoming the center of global Christianity before Islam swept in and made it the religious powerhouse of the Arab world. Today, we're going to unwrap the entire spiritual journey of Egypt, from gods and god-kings to monks, messiahs, and mosques. And no, there will not be a test at the end, just jokes, and maybe some existential dread. Part 1. From jackals to ancient Egyptian religion before the Bible, before Jesus, and way before Twitter, Egyptians were already worshipping gods with amazing PR teams. Back in 6000 BCE, Egyptians were tying natural forces to divine beings. Floods? That's a god. Sun? Definitely a god. Your cat knocking things off a table? Goddess behavior. By 3150 BCE, Egypt unified under one pharaoh who wasn't just a king, he was a literal god on earth, usually linked to Horus, the falcon god, or Ra, the sun god. Imagine your local politician claiming to be the divine sun incarnate. We'd laugh today. Back then, totally normal. In the Old Kingdom, only pharaohs got to party in the afterlife. That's why they built giant stone death condos called pyramids. But by the Middle Kingdom, everyday people started getting in on the whole eternal life package, like a spiritual Costco membership going public. This shift is sometimes called the democratization of death. Osiris, the god of the underworld, became super popular, probably because people liked the idea of resurrection. Who doesn't? Fast forward to the New Kingdom, and you've got a god mashup called Amun-Ra, because why settle for one all-powerful god when you can just combine two? Pharaoh Akhenaten tried a dramatic rebrand. Ditch the pantheon and worship just one god, Aten the sun disk. Bold move, Akhenaten. Unfortunately, it flopped like a bad sequel. People missed their crocodile gods and bird-headed bros. By the time the Greeks and Romans rolled in, Egyptian religion had become a giant cultural buffet. Everyone was borrowing each other's gods. Isis became the Beyoncé of the ancient world, worshipped everywhere from London to Libya. But like all good franchises, Egyptian religion eventually got cancelled. Enter Christianity. Part 2. Christianity in Egypt. The Rise of the Cross. According to tradition, Christianity hit Egypt around 50 AD, courtesy of St. Mark, who rolled into Alexandria preaching a new message: one God, no falcon heads required. Early Christianity in Egypt spread like wildfire, especially among the Jewish and Hellenistic communities in Alexandria, one of the most intellectual cities of the Roman Empire. Naturally, the Roman authorities were not thrilled, so they started persecuting Christians, which only made the religion stronger. Classic PR backfire. Persecution pushed many Christians into the desert, where they created monasteries, which would become the birthplace of Christian monasticism. That's right, monks, hermits, and ascetics isolating in the desert started in Egypt, not Europe. So next time you see a monk in a robe, thank the guy who sat on a pillar in the Egyptian heat for 30 years eating bugs and praying. By the 4th century, Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity with the Edict of Milan, and suddenly it was cool to be Christian. Egypt took center stage. Alexandria became one of the most powerful Christian cities in the world. If early Christianity had a capital city, it wasn't Rome yet, it was Alexandria. Part 3. The Big Split. Egypt versus the Empire. Then came the Council of Chalcedon in 451 AD, and everything hit the theological fan. The council wanted to clarify the nature of Christ. The Roman line was, Jesus has two natures, divine and human, existing in one person. But the Egyptian church said, actually we think Jesus is fully divine and fully human in one united nature. This belief is called myophysitism, from the Greek maya, one, and physis, nature. So instead of Jesus has a divine side and a human side, it was more like, Jesus is the divine human smoothie blend, not a dual-flavored popsicle, a spiritual frappuccino. Rome didn't like that. Alexandria didn't budge. Boom, schism. And so the Coptic Orthodox Church was born, an entirely independent Christian church that still exists today, proud of its Miaphysite roots and very comfortable ignoring centuries of Roman theological emails. Part 4. The Decline of Egypt's Christian Power. Now here's the tragic twist: while Egypt was once Christianity's intellectual engine, that influence started fading. Why? Rome got jealous. When Constantine made Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire, he also moved the power center to Constantinople. Alexandria was now awkward, important, yes, but no longer in charge. The Chalcedonian split made it worse. Egypt was now seen as the weird theological cousin who won't stop talking about divine natures at family dinners. As Rome and Constantinople rose, Egypt's political and spiritual clout shrank. The final nail came with the closure of the Temple of Isis at Philae in the 6th century. The last whispers of Egypt's ancient religion were silenced. Then came the 7th century, and with it, Islam. Part 5, Here Comes Islam and Everything Changes, again. In 641 AD, Arab Muslim armies conquered Egypt. The Byzantine Empire, which still clung to Christian Egypt, fell back, and Islam became the new sheriff in town. Unlike Rome's persecutions, the Muslims didn't force conversions. Egyptian Christians, now called Copts, were allowed to practice their faith, but they had to pay a special tax, jizya, and were considered dhimmi, or protected but second-class citizens. At first, many Egyptians were like, we'll deal, but over time, pressures mounted. Arabic replaced Coptic and Greek as the language of power. Government jobs, reserved for Muslims. Social status, better if you convert. So bit by bit, Egypt shifted from a Christian majority to a Muslim majority. But this wasn't overnight, it took centuries. Still, Islam found deep roots. Egypt became a center of Islamic learning, home to Al-Azhar University, founded in 970 AD, still one of the world's leading institutions for Islamic scholarship today. Part 6, Modern Egypt, Faith, Power, and Politics. So where does that leave Egypt now? Today, about 90% of Egypt's population is Sunni Muslim, and roughly 10% are Coptic Christians, making it the largest Christian minority in the Middle East. But that 10% matters, a lot. The Coptic Church is deeply embedded in Egypt's identity. Coptic holidays are national holidays. Coptic architecture dots the country, and despite occasional persecution and tension, the church has survived nearly 2,000 years of upheaval. That's staying power. Religiously, Egypt is still a regional heavyweight. It's a voice of moderation but also of religious nationalism. Al-Azhar plays a major role in interpreting Islamic law across the Arab world, and Egypt's government often uses religion to assert moral and political control. In fact, Egypt often sees itself as the guardian of Sunni Islam in the region, balancing against more radical interpretations coming from elsewhere. Politically, Egypt's religious diversity still causes debate. The government walks a fine line between secularism, Islamic identity, and protecting minorities, while sometimes using religion for political gain. So let's recap this holy roller coaster. Egypt started with gods who had animal heads and complicated family trees. Then it became the birthplace of Christian monasticism and the intellectual engine of early Christianity. Then it was sidelined by Rome, schismed into Coptic orthodoxy, and conquered by Islam. Today, it's a majority Muslim nation with a powerful Christian minority, a center of Islamic learning, and a country where religion is still deeply tied to national identity and regional influence. That's not just impressive, that's downright divine. If you enjoyed this whirlwind trip through Egypt's sacred history, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss our next adventure into lost civilizations, forgotten gods, or weird historical medical practices. Seriously, it gets weird. And remember, the next time someone tells you history is boring, remind them that Egypt once tried monotheism, rejected it, became the center of Christianity, got conquered, converted, and still managed to keep ancient Coptic churches standing. That's not boring, that's legendary.